You want to be mindful, yet the moment you close your eyes, a vibration calls you back. There's a quiet irony in it, searching for stillness through the very screen that steals it. We light candles, play ambient sounds, breathe slowly, and still the mind twitches for a notification. But what if this isn't weakness? What if it's a body trained by years of invisible anticipation? A nervous system wired for interruption. Perhaps the real obstacle isn't distraction itself, but the kind of world we're forced to stay awake in. Let's explore why peace feels so unreachable and what awareness truly means when you're always online. Part 1. Addicted to calm. Why your phone feeds your anxiety. There's a strange comfort in the glow of a screen. You tell yourself it's harmless, just one quick check before you rest. But your thumb already knows the pattern. Swipe, scroll, refresh. There's a pulse to it, a rhythm your body memorized long before you noticed. And somewhere between anticipation and relief, a hit of something invisible keeps you coming back. Scientists call it the dopamine loop, the ancient circuitry of desire repurposed by modern design. Every notification, every unread badge, every red dot is a whisper of possibility. Maybe someone thought of you. Maybe something happened. You don't open your phone for pleasure. You open it for relief. Relief from the unease of not knowing. It's not joy you're chasing. It's the temporary silence between two waves of anxiety. We used to think of calm as stillness. Now it's become control, an ability to manage every sensation, every message, every emotional fluctuation. You scroll not because you're restless, but because you're afraid of missing a signal. The mind has learned to equate motion with safety. In the digital age, vigilance masquerades as awareness. But awareness, real awareness, is the opposite. It's the willingness to stop reacting, to let the moment breathe without immediately filling it. Yet notice how hard that feels. The second silence stretches too long. The urge rises, check again. It's not your fault. Your brain was never built for this level of stimulus. Ancient neural circuits that once scanned the horizon for danger now scan your feed for novelty. Each alert triggers the same survival mechanism that once kept your ancestors alive. The difference is, back then, threats ended. Now they refresh endlessly. And so we live suspended, not fully anxious, not fully calm. Hovering between tension and release. The mind constantly negotiating. Am I safe yet? You reach for your phone not because you seek connection, but because you fear absence. We call it mindfulness, yet what we practice daily is hyper-awareness, a heightened vigilance that exhausts the nervous system under the illusion of control. You meditate with one eye open. You breathe, but wait for the buzz. You want to be still, but you're terrified of what stillness might reveal. There's a moment right after you've scrolled through everything when nothing new appears, and instead of peace, you feel panic. That hollow quiet between refreshes feels unbearable, like the mind losing its pulse. It's in that moment you meet the truth. We are not addicted to pleasure. We are addicted to distraction from discomfort. Your phone doesn't feed your anxiety by accident. It feeds it by design. Every refresh resets the loop: anticipation, response, relief, repeat. The architecture of calm has been inverted. Peace no longer means less stimulation, but better distraction. And so the question lingers in the soft hum between pings in the quiet hours when your screen fades to black. Are we truly mindful, or just perpetually alert? Part 2. Your mind has too many tabs open. Imagine your mind as a browser, 20 tabs open, each demanding attention, none fully loaded. You start reading one article, then check a message, then return to the article, but can't remember where you stopped. A notification slides in. A friend liked your post. You smile, scroll, forget what you were even doing. Every click feels productive, but nothing ever truly finishes. This is the quiet tragedy of modern attention. We've mistaken motion for meaning. In neuroscience, they call it attentional fragmentation. The constant switching between tasks that drains cognitive energy faster than any physical exertion. Each switch burns glucose, scattering neural focus into fragments too small to hold thought. Over time, this mental fragmentation doesn't just make us scattered, it reshapes the very structure of the brain. Studies show that chronic multitasking reduces gray matter density in regions linked to empathy and emotional regulation. You don't lose your capacity to care, you simply stop feeling it in time. The system is still there, it's just overloaded. This is why you can scroll through tragedy and feel nothing. It's not apathy, it's anesthesia. The mind numbed not by cruelty, but by excess. Like trying to hear a whisper in a thunderstorm, your sensitivity drowns in the noise. And yet we keep adding tabs. Work emails, news updates, group chats, podcasts. Even the so-called mindfulness playlist becomes another window open in the background. You tell yourself it's just multitasking, that you can handle it. But every switch pulls you a little further from the present moment. There's a cost hidden in this convenience, the erosion of depth. Depth requires boredom. It needs stillness, that awkward, unfilled pause in which something real can surface. But our culture has declared war on silence. We fill every pause with sound, every idle second with stimulation. The mind never lands, it hovers. Think of it like walking across stepping stones that never stop moving. You can't rest your weight on any thought long enough for it to become understanding. The moment one feeling starts to unfold, another notification slices through it. And so when silence finally arrives, when the screen goes dark, your body mistakes it for danger. The stillness you crave becomes the stillness you fear. That unease, its withdrawal, a nervous system detoxing from constant novelty. This is why mindfulness feels impossible. It's not that your mind can't focus. It's that it's been trained not to finish loading. Every moment of peace gets interrupted before it completes. So you drift through your day with 100 unfinished thoughts like open tabs you're too tired to close. Somewhere among them is a half-written idea, a conversation you meant to return to, a feeling you never processed. The browser of your mind begins to lag, but you keep opening new windows, hoping one of them will finally load into clarity. But it never does not until you stop. Not until you face the silence you've avoided. Because silence, contrary to what you fear, isn't the absence of life. It's the bandwidth through which life returns. And maybe, just maybe, mindfulness isn't about adding another tab for peace. It's about daring to close the rest. Part 3. Mindfulness became a trend and lost its soul. Somewhere along the way, mindfulness became beautiful, too beautiful. Soft piano notes in the background, a perfectly lit room, a slow inhale timed to a cinematic sunrise. The modern world turned awareness into an aesthetic. Calm became something to perform, not to inhabit. You see it everywhere, reels of people meditating beside waterfalls, playlists promising instant serenity, guided apps tracking your progress in peace. Even silence has a marketing strategy now. The breath once sacred is branded. But here's the paradox. The more we try to look calm, the further we drift from actually being calm. Because what we're really chasing isn't peace, it's proof. Proof that we've mastered ourselves, that we've escaped the chaos, that we are, at least for a few moments, someone the world should admire. We post our stillness. We document our detachment. We measure tranquility by how aesthetic it appears on screen. And in that act, mindfulness, which was meant to free us from identity, becomes another identity to maintain. It's not mindfulness anymore. It's performance, a curated stillness that depends on an audience. But mindfulness was never about appearance. It was about invisibility, the quiet art of being fully present when no one is watching. It's not the serene face in a meditation photo. It's the moment when your heart races, your thoughts spiral, and instead of escaping, you stay. Real awareness isn't photogenic. It's raw, inconvenient, sometimes even ugly. It's crying without distraction. It's breathing through restlessness instead of trying to fix it. It's sitting with the thought, "I'm not okay," and realizing you don't need to pretend that you are. But in our age of digital reflection, even healing must be witnessed to feel real. We record our meditations to prove balance. We screenshot our screen-free time as if to reassure ourselves that it happened. In chasing calm, we've commodified it, and in commodifying it, we've hollowed it out. This is what happens when presence meets performance. Awareness by nature has no audience. The moment you seek one, you step out of it. To be mindful is to vanish, to stop needing to be seen, liked, or measured. But we've turned vanishing into content. So it's no wonder that mindfulness feels shallow now. It's not the practice that failed us. It's the imitation we've replaced it with. We've mistaken the appearance of inner peace for the experience of it. Mindfulness is not a candlelit ritual. It's what happens in traffic, in conflict, in chaos. It's the choice to remain aware, even when awareness doesn't look graceful. And maybe that's where its soul went missing, in the gap between looking serene and feeling alive. Because true mindfulness doesn't exist to impress others. It exists to return you to yourself. Maybe it's time to stop performing our calm and start meeting our chaos with open eyes. Maybe mindfulness didn't fail us at all. Maybe we just forgot that it was never supposed to be seen. Part 4. You're not distracted. You're being designed to be. Distraction isn't an accident anymore. It's architecture. The apps on your phone, the colors on your screen, even the delay before a notification appears, all of it has been engineered to keep your attention slightly off balance, to keep you reaching, anticipating, craving. We think we're choosing to check our phones, but what if the choice has already been made for us? Long before we touch the screen, here's what's really happening beneath the surface cue. Craving, response, reward. It's the same loop that drives every addiction, and every app knows how to speak its language. The red badge you see, that's the cue. The uncertainty of what's waiting, that's the craving. The swipe, that's the response. And the little surge of dopamine you feel when the page refreshes, that's the reward. But it's not the reward itself that traps you. It's the anticipation of it. The mind loves prediction errors, that tiny gap between expectation and surprise. Every time you think maybe something new happened, your brain releases dopamine before you even see the result. The internet is built upon that chemical promise, not satisfaction, but the hope of it. And hope, when manipulated, becomes a leash. You're not weak for falling into this loop. You're simply human, living in a world that studies your biology more intimately than you study yourself. Every scroll, every pause, every microsecond of attention becomes data refined, monetized, weaponized. This is the economy of attention. You don't pay for the product because you are the product. Your awareness, the purest thing you possess, is being auctioned one distracted second at a time. But here's the part they don't want you to realize: your attention is not infinite. Every moment you give away is a moment that no longer belongs to you. Every ping slices your consciousness into fragments so small you forget how whole you used to feel. And yet there's nothing inherently evil about the technology itself. A flashlight isn't dangerous until someone keeps grabbing it from your hand. Imagine your awareness as that beam of light. It's meant to illuminate where you choose to look. But the digital world keeps tossing shiny objects in the dark, pulling your light toward motion, not meaning. The danger is not the noise, it's forgetting that you can turn your head. When you understand this, mindfulness transforms. It stops being an escape and becomes an act of quiet rebellion. Mindfulness in the digital age isn't about deleting the world or abandoning your devices. It's about noticing the pull, the subtle tug of engineered craving, and remembering that you still have a choice. You don't have to renounce technology to reclaim yourself. You only have to pause long enough to remember what you were doing before the next ping arrived. You are not broken. You are overstimulated, and that's fixable. Because every moment of awareness you reclaim is a vote for sovereignty. A reminder that while they can design your environment, they cannot design your presence. Mindfulness today doesn't mean hiding from the noise. It means hearing it and choosing with quiet clarity not to follow every sound. Part 5. Awareness isn't quiet, it's honest. We've been taught to think of awareness as something serene, a still lake reflecting the sky. But in truth, awareness often begins as turbulence. It's the moment the waves rise, the water churns, and you finally stop pretending the storm isn't there. Mindfulness isn't the absence of thought. It's the presence of honesty. The ancient Stoics and Buddhists understood this long before modern psychology gave it names. They never spoke of emptying the mind. They spoke of seeing clearly. To observe one's own thoughts not as enemies to silence, but as visitors to understand. The Stoics called it prosoche, the discipline of attention. The Buddhists called it sati, remembering to be aware. Both point to the same truth. Mindfulness isn't about erasing your humanity, it's about witnessing it. And yet, when we sit in silence, the first thing we notice is how noisy we are. Memories, fears, to-do lists, regrets, they all rush in impatient to be heard. Most people assume this means they're failing at mindfulness. But what if that chaos is the beginning of awareness? Real mindfulness doesn't begin with calm. It begins with discomfort. It's the moment you stop running from your own mind. The first stage of awareness isn't peace, it's truth. To be mindful is to face the unedited version of yourself, the irritation, the envy, the loneliness, the ache beneath your busyness. Awareness is raw before it's gentle. You can't polish what you refuse to look at. And this is where many give up, because it's easier to meditate for calm than to meditate for truth. Calm is pretty, truth is painful. But if calm is the surface of the lake, truth is the deep current beneath the part that moves everything even when it can't be seen. You stop seeking silence as escape and begin to see it as exposure. Silence doesn't erase the noise, it amplifies it until you can finally hear what's been begging for your attention. Try this notice the moment before you reach for your phone. That flicker of restlessness that's awareness. It's not peaceful, but it's honest. It's the split second where choice exists. Between impulse and action lies a doorway, and mindfulness is simply learning to stand there to breathe before you walk through. When you see your thoughts clearly, something miraculous happens. They start losing their authority. They still arise, but they no longer command. You realize that you are not your anger, your craving, your story. You are the awareness witnessing them. Liberation doesn't come from perfect stillness. It comes from sincerity, from the courage to sit with what is real even when it isn't pretty. That's the irony most people miss. Awareness doesn't make life quieter, it makes it clearer. It's not about becoming a saint. It's about becoming transparent to yourself. When you stop hiding from your emotions, you stop being controlled by them. When you stop chasing calm, you begin to touch truth. And in that truth, however raw, however imperfect, peace finally begins to emerge. Not because the noise is gone, but because you've stopped pretending it shouldn't exist. Awareness doesn't wait for silence. It starts right in the middle of the noise, and it whispers the simplest, most radical truth. You don't need to escape your mind to be free. You only need to see it clearly. Part 6: How to stay aware without deleting the internet. You don't need to disappear into the woods to reclaim your mind. You just need to pause long enough to remember that the world inside you is wider than the one inside your screen. The modern fantasy of peace often involves escape deleting every app, switching off the phone, rejecting the digital world altogether. But true mindfulness isn't flight, it's coexistence. It's the art of being online without being consumed. The goal isn't to live without noise, it's to stop letting the noise live through you. So how do you stay aware in a world that profits from your distraction? Not through control, but through conscious meeting. Awareness doesn't require discipline so much as curiosity, a gentle noticing of how you move, breathe, and react. Let's begin small. The one breath rule. Before you touch your phone, take one breath. Not deep, not forced, just one. Feel the air enter-leave. Notice how your hand still itches for motion. This moment, the second before the impulse wins, is where awareness lives. That single breath is a reminder you are not your craving. The single task ritual. Choose one ordinary act each day and do it with total attention. Maybe it's making coffee, folding clothes, or washing a dish. Let yourself be nowhere else. Notice the textures, the sounds, the rhythm of doing something completely. When you give your full attention to something simple, you remember that depth doesn't depend on complexity, it depends on presence. The tech Sabbath light. Forget the idea of digital fasting for a week. Just take 1 hour each day where no screens exist. 1 hour when you let the nervous system breathe, walk, stretch, write, or simply sit without performing. You'll notice something subtle. The first 10 minutes feel like detox, the next 10 like boredom, and somewhere around the 30-minute mark, silence starts to feel like oxygen again. Mindful scrolling. You don't need to quit the feed, you just need to see it. As you scroll, observe your body. Does your chest tighten? Does your jaw clench? Does your mood shift without reason? Each observation transforms unconscious consumption into conscious awareness. It's not about judging what you see, it's about witnessing what it does to you. Each of these practices shares one idea: awareness before action. Not suppression, not withdrawal awareness. Because awareness is the only place where freedom begins. The truth is, technology isn't the enemy. Our unexamined relationship with it is. The internet amplifies whatever state of consciousness we bring to it. If we enter mindlessly, it deepens our fragmentation. But if we enter with presence, it can even become a mirror, a place to study our desires, reactions, and attachments in real time. You don't need to delete the world to find yourself. You just need to return to yourself within it. So the next time you open your phone, don't rush to control the urge. Just notice it. Watch the current pull you, and then slowly choose whether to follow. That's awareness in motion. That's mindfulness for a connected age. Because the goal of mindfulness was never isolation. It was intimacy. Intimacy with this moment, this body, this breath, this choice. And even in a world of infinite noise, that intimacy, that quiet recognition of your own presence, remains the one signal that cannot be hijacked. Part 7. When the noise fades, you'll hear yourself again. There comes a moment quiet, almost unnoticeable, when the noise begins to fade. Not because the world has stopped shouting, but because you've stopped answering every call. The mind, once a crowded intersection of pings and thoughts, starts to empty out. What remains isn't silence in the way you imagined it. It's a kind of spaciousness, a living stillness where thought slows and awareness finally breathes. When your attention stabilizes, something remarkable happens. The background hum of anxiety softens. The compulsive need to check, scroll, refresh it loosens its grip. And in that clearing, you start to hear something faint but familiar, your own signal. It's the voice that existed long before algorithms learned your patterns. The one that whispers instead of demands. The one that knows the difference between desire and noise. Life begins to regain its texture. You notice the small, unmonetized miracles, the warmth of sunlight on your hand, the sound of water in the sink, the shape of a passing thought that doesn't need to be shared. These moments don't perform for anyone. They simply exist. And for the first time in a long while, so do you. This is what happens when awareness roots itself again. The digital fog lifts and depth returns. Not depth as analysis, but as intimacy with yourself, with reality, with this one unrepeatable breath. You begin to realize that peace isn't something you find. It's something that was waiting beneath the static all along. It was never gone, only drowned out. Think of your awareness like a lake after a storm. The wind of distraction churned the surface until everything blurred. But once it settles, the reflection returns, not because the sky changed, but because the water finally remembered how to be still. This stillness is not escape, it's clarity. You begin to see your life not as a feed of information, but as a field of experience. You stop chasing meaning as data points and start feeling it as presence. The mind that once fragmented under constant input begins to weave coherence again, thought, feeling, and body rejoining in one rhythm. And perhaps for the first time you sense what mindfulness was pointing to all along, not the absence of thought, but the reunion with being. The paradox is beautiful. You didn't have to abandon the world to find peace. You only had to stop mistaking the world's noise for your own voice. When awareness deepens, even the ordinary becomes sacred. The most mundane task becomes a kind of prayer, not to any god, but to the act of truly being here. You realize that peace isn't a goal, it's a byproduct of presence. And presence isn't stillness, it's honesty. The moment you stop running from what is everything, begins to quiet, not because you forced it, but because truth has nothing left to resist. So where do we begin? Not with control, not with detachment, but with a single decision to listen again, to the silence beneath your thoughts, to the rhythm beneath your distractions, to the quiet, patient self that has been waiting all along to be heard. Outro the first quiet minute. Mindfulness was never impossible, only unheard beneath the noise. The world hasn't grown louder, we've simply forgotten how to listen. Awareness isn't a mountain you must climb, but a moment you can return to again and again, even here, even now. So before you scroll to the next thing, breathe. Feel the air enter, leave. Notice the flicker of stillness between two thoughts. That's awareness, small, fragile, but alive. And if you can share one moment today when you truly noticed yourself, not your reflection, not your feed, but you. Because that's how awareness spreads, not through grand awakenings, but through quiet reminders that ripple outward, one mindful breath, one conscious soul at a time.